The conflict between the Turks and the Kurds has deep historical, political, and socio-cultural roots. This conflict primarily involves the Turkish state and Kurdish nationalist movements and has persisted for decades, manifesting in various forms of political tension, armed conflict, and human rights issues. But why are they fighting each other? First, let's talk about the Kurds and who they are. The Kurds, an ethnic group with their own distinct language and culture, have historically lived in regions that are now parts of Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. There are around 30 to 45 million Kurds, which makes them the largest ethnic group without a country of their own. After World War I, the Treaty of Sèvres, 1920, proposed the creation of an independent Kurdish state. However, this treaty was never implemented. Instead, the Treaty of Lausanne, 1923, replaced the Treaty of Sèvres and defined the borders of modern Turkey without provisions for a Kurdish state, leaving Kurds divided among several countries. Following the establishment of the Republic of Turkey in 1923, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the leader of Turkey at the time, decided that everyone in the region of modern-day Turkey should now become one identity, which is Turkish, and diminish all other identities. This can also be known as Turkification. This included efforts to assimilate ethnic minorities, including Kurds, often through suppression of Kurdish culture and language. The Kurds were not happy with this, and many started to rebel against the Turkish government for an independent Kurdish state, but had failed over and over again. Many of these rebellions would happen throughout the country, but in 1938, one of these rebellions would turn to be a major event in the hatred between Kurds and Turks. The Dersim province, located in eastern Turkey, was predominantly inhabited by the Kurdish Alevi community, who practiced a distinct form of Islam and maintained a unique cultural identity. Following the establishment of the new Turkish government, led by Ataturk, new nationalistic policies aimed to create a homogeneous Turkish identity were born. The Kurdish Alevis in Dersim were opposed to these new policies set by the Turkish state. They valued their autonomy and traditional way of life, which clashed with the Turkish government's aim to assimilate various ethnic minorities. Tensions between the Kurdish Alevis and Turkish government started to rise and led to a Kurdish rebellion led by Sayyid Riza, a prominent Alevi leader. The rebellion was a response to the Turkish government's attempts to impose its authority in the region, including efforts to disarm the local population and suppress their cultural practices. In response to the rebellion, the Turkish government launched a series of military operations. The repression was brutal, involving aerial bombings, ground assaults, usage of chemical weapons, and the destruction of villages. Thousands of people, including women and children, were killed during these operations. Estimates of the death toll vary, but it is generally agreed that tens of thousands of people were killed. Many survivors were forcibly deported to other parts of Turkey. The displacement aimed to break the social and cultural fabric of the Dersim community and integrate them into the Turkish nation. The Turkish state imposed strict censorship on information regarding the events in Dersim. Public discussion of the genocide was suppressed for many years, and it remained a sensitive topic in Turkish politics. In recent years, there has been increasing recognition of the Dersim genocide. In 2011, Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan publicly apologized for the massacre, acknowledging the state's responsibility for the atrocities. This tragic chapter in the history of the Turks and Kurds fueled more hatred amongst each other and caused many more Kurdish nationalist movements to emerge. The main one that we all know of today would be the Kurdistan Workers' Party, also known as the PKK. But who are they and what are their motives? The PKK is a Kurdish militant political organization and armed guerrilla movement. It was founded in 1978 by Abdullah Öcalan and a group of Kurdish students. The PKK originally adhered to Marxist-Leninist ideology, advocating for the creation of an independent Kurdish state. Over time, the group's ideology evolved to a blend of Kurdish nationalism and democratic confederalism, a form of direct democracy. The PKK emerged in response to the discrimination and cultural suppression faced by Kurds in Turkey. Throughout the 20th century, Kurdish expressions of identity and language were banned, and Kurdish political movements were actively suppressed by the Turkish state. The PKK began its armed struggle against the Turkish government in 1984, seeking an independent Kurdish state. This conflict has been marked by guerrilla warfare mainly targeting Turkish military, police, and civilian entities. The Turkish government and several other countries, including the United States and the European Union, designate the PKK as a terrorist organization due to its violent tactics and attacks on civilians. Despite these controversies, many Kurds view the PKK as a legitimate resistance movement fighting for Kurdish rights. Some international leftist and human rights groups support the PKK's ideological shift towards democratic confederalism and gender equality. They can be seen similar to Hamas in Palestine, as some deem them to be terrorists and others claim them to be freedom fighters. In 1999, PKK leader Abdullah Öcalan fled from Syria to Nairobi, Kenya, seeking asylum in South Africa. Using the United States Central Intelligence Agency, Turkish forces captured Abdullah Öcalan in Kenya. This led to a significant shift in the organization's strategy. Under Öcalan's influence from prison, the PKK adopted democratic confederalism. The PKK remains a significant player in Kurdish political movements and the broader struggle for Kurdish autonomy and rights in the region. So overall, the Turks tried to create a homogeneous identity for everyone in the region following their independence. This led to the Kurds rebelling for their identity and culture, causing a genocide from Turkish forces and terroristic attacks from extremist groups such as the PKK in retaliation. All these factors have set in stone the hatred between the Turks and the Kurds. Do you guys think the Kurds are rightfully fighting, or are they in the wrong? Let me know in the comments below.